This ship brought almost 1,000 relatives of the Cuban prisoners out of communist hands to freedom. One of these men is her captain. What is your name, please?
My name is Alfred Borum.
My name is Alfred Borum.
My name is Alfred Borum.
Only one of these men is the real captain of the African Pilot. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Phyllis Newman, Gene Rayburn, and Kitty Carlisle. On To Tell the Truth with your host, Bud Collyer.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Brought to you this week by Salem Cigarettes. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
How are you
Hi,
all
Bud.
this evening? Phyllis, you're practically a regular on our daytime show.
Yes,
To tell the
it's
truth,
true.
welcome to the nighttime show.
Thank you. It's very exciting. It's also grown up and everything.
That's a distinction I hadn't thought of. I'm sure that all of you know that Gene Rayburn is host of a new program called The Match Game.
Oh, we're having the time of our life. I am. Just love that show.
Going well, is it?
It's the only game show I've ever been involved in, other than this one, where there's a lot of fun
Good.
and a lot of suspense, too.
Well, we got suspense tonight. We have something coming up for you. Please open up your envelope, take out your affidavit cards, and follow along with me on this first one as I read from my copy. I, Alfred Borum, am the captain of the Farrell Line's freighter African Pilot, the ship which delivered the first load of exchange food and medicine to communist Cuba. Castro himself came aboard my ship, and I later was his personal guest on a tour of Havana. While we were in port, Castro unexpectedly decided to release some relatives of the former Cuban prisoners. Although my ship is equipped to carry 12 passengers, we took more than 900 men, women, and children back to their families and friends in Florida. Signed, Alfred Borum. So, panel, these three gentlemen all claim to be Alfred Borum, captain of the African Pilot. And we start this questioning with Tom Poston, if we may, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Bud. Number two, was Castro nice?
Very cordial.
Very cordial?
Very cordial.
Number three, is that your opinion of Mr. Castro? Or
Yes,
whatever
I'd
his
say
initial...
so. Very businesslike, though.
he's a businessman?
Businesslike, I said.
Very businesslike. Yeah, he's taken over a lot of them down there, hasn't he? Number one, how come he's such a nut?
I don't know.
Did he behave in any nut-like way while you were with him?
Not particularly.
No, he didn't. He wasn't eccentric in any way, huh?
I don't believe so.
Thank you. Number two.
Phyllis.
Thank you, Bud. Number two, how did you speak to Senor Castro? Do you speak Spanish?
I speak a little, but to him, I spoke in English.
I see. Number three, he speaks English.
Fairly well, yes.
Fairly well. Number one, could you tell me what your ship usually carries?
Cargo.
Uh-huh.
Ask him if he can say automobile.
Number two, what kind of cargo?
General cargo.
General. That's a pretty sneaky group of
Gene Rayburn.
Number three, what does your ship carry?
Dry cargo.
Dry cargo. Number three, what is dry cargo?
So it's something that is not liquid. In other words, it's...
I'll see you on the daytime show. Number one, what, in your personal opinion, caused Dr. Castro to change his, or to release the additional people?
Well, I believe that the time of the year might have had something to do with it, Christmas time.
Oh, good.
Number two, do you think he did it out of a benevolent nature?
Well, that might have had something to do with it. It's all a matter of opinion.
Number two, what is liquid cargo? What would liquid cargo be?
Oil, molasses, wine, anything carried by tankers.
Are you a dry or a wet man?
I'm a dry man.
You're a dry man.
How did you get off on that?
Number one, when you were offered 900 passengers as opposed to the 12 you usually carry, how did you come to this decision to carry them? Number one.
It was requested that we would carry that
Number two, it's a fascinating, exciting story. I saw pictures of some of the people. Were they all over the decks and all over everywhere?
Only in the shelter deck.
Number three, how long did this trip take?
14 to 16 hours, about 12.
Number one, you were not equipped to feed these people.
No.
Number two, what was your original mission? Was it the United States government that sent the food and the medicine?
The American Red Cross.
The Red Cross. Number three, how much cargo did you carry in food and medicine?
About 1,500 tons.
1,500 tons.
That's all we have time for. It is a fascinating story, and I'm sure you'd like to find out more about it, which you may do after the show is all over. You can talk to them, of course. But right now, please mark your ballots. Mark them at once and without change, and, of course, without any consultation whatsoever. And as you do so, of course, vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. Our team of challengers will receive $250 for every incorrect vote. Very well, all ballots are marked, I see. So, Tom, for whom did you vote?
Well, I didn't think that we got any specific right or wrong information. I think they were all knew pretty much what they were talking about, certainly more than we did. I voted for number 1. I like the look in his eye. Looked like a man who could handle an emergency situation like that well, and I certainly think that particular exchange was well handled.
Phyllis, what about you?
Well, I had Tom's reasons, but I voted for number 2. No, because he looks like the kind of man who could carry out this extraordinary mission, as indeed it was.
Gene, what about your choice?
Well, I go for a dry man anytime. So I voted for number 2. And also, when he answered his questions, he volunteered some information. For instance, somebody asked him a question, where did the people stay? And he said, well, they stayed down on the reform deck. And those little bits of information are very helpful.
Kitty, your choice.
I voted for number 2. I thought that his answers about what wet cargo was, I thought he was going to say liquor or, I don't know. He thought of wonderful things to say. Molasses was a marvelous thing I wouldn't have thought of.
That's sticky cargo.
Not wet, just sticky. So I voted for number 2.
All right, there we have it then. 3 for 2 and 1 for 1. And let's see how the chips fall this time as we uncover the truth and find out which of these gentlemen actually is the captain of the African pilot. So, Will the Real, Alfred Borum, please stand up.
No.
We thank you, sir, and I imagine that's an experience that will long remain with you as a real contribution to humanity.
That certainly will.
Let's find out about the other two. Now, Skipper there in the middle with the dry look. You had 3 of the votes. What is your real name, sir, and what do you really do?
Well, my name is Bill McDonald, and I'm with AMF, American Machine and Foundry Company.
And number 3, what about you, sir? What is your real name, and what do you do?
My name is Paul Larson. I'm a professional lecturer.
What, Gene?
I'd like to say, number 1, you're under arrest for being out of uniform.
Only for the moment, however, and of course it's a very happy situation because there were 3 incorrect votes, all garnered by 1, and of course times $250 for each. That's $750 from Salem Cigarettes for you, as well as a carton of Salem's for each of you. And we thank you very much for joining us and sharing your story with us. Goodbye, and God bless you. When all around you is cold and dreary, you warm to this springtime freshness. Now let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Anne-Marie Benstrom.
My name is Anne-Marie Benstrom. My name is Anne-Marie Benstrom.
Very well, panel, you've had a look. Now suppose you look at your affidavit cards and follow along with me, if you will.
I say we keep looking at the girls in here.
I, Anne-Marie Benstrom, am executive director of the Golden Door, one of the most exclusive, expensive, and unusual beauty and health ranches in the world. Many of our methods and procedures have been borrowed from earlier civilizations. We do a series of exercises originated by Leonardo da Vinci. Our method of sunbathing was handed down by the ancient Sumerians. Many of our beauty aids are thousands of years old. Although we cater mostly to women, 8 weeks each year, we open the golden door to the overtired and overweight businessman. Signed, Anne-Marie Benstrom. Panel, these three ladies, as you heard, all claim to be Anne-Marie Benstrom, director of the Golden Door. And we'll start this time with Kitty Carlisle. Kitty?
Thank you, Bud. I can't wait to find out these secrets. Number 3, do you know Benet Venuta's daughter?
Yes.
Number 2, where was ancient Samaria?
In the old Persian regime.
What sort of method, number 1, did they use for sunbathing that was so special?
They have a very shallow tub with about 2 inches of water, and they use the sun on various sides, and then it gives you complete exposure between air.
Thank you. Number 2, these exercises of Da Vinci, were they done in sketches or were they written down on paper?
No, they were actually written and diagrammed.
And diagrammed. Number 3, how long do these exercises take?
It depends upon how long they could stand it.
Very rugged.
Yeah, they were done for the Sforza's army.
For whose army?
Sforza's army.
Oh, thank you.
Tom Poston.
Oh, I don't know. Yes, I don't know who that is. Number 2, do you know Jim Backus?
Yes, I do.
In what connection do you happen to know him?
In a business way, he comes to the farm.
Thank you. Number 1, do you know his wife's name? Just by chance.
Henny.
Pardon me?
Henny.
Thank you. I'd like to find out a little bit more about Sumeria. Do you know what Sumeria, where that is, number 3, please?
Well, it doesn't exist anymore, but it existed 8,000 years ago.
You think it was that long? Thank you.
Phyllis.
Thank you, Bud. Number 3, where is your establishment located?
In Escondido,
Where is that?
20 miles north of San Diego on Highway 395.
I see. Thank you. Number 1, what kind of a diet do you give to a woman when she comes?
It's a low-calorie diet consisting
I hope so.
mostly, high in protein and vegetables.
Thank you. Number 2, what do you do for a double chin? What's an exercise? Could you tell me briefly?
We try to slap it off, but there are.
I'm sorry I asked. Sorry. Yes. Number 1, could you tell me the difference between a Swedish massage and any other kind of massage?
I'm afraid I really couldn't go
Number
into
3, could you?
Well, the Swedish massage is done by a Swede.
Gene Rayburn.
Isn't that awful?
Number 1, if... I know a Greek would give Swedish massages all the time. Number 1,
done to a Swede. I didn't know.
if my wife wanted to lose 20 or 25 pounds, and I know you don't, dear, it's just a hypothetical, I have to ask the question. What's the first thing you would do to her?
Put her on a diet.
You know how many
And give her
calories
prescribed.
in an 8-ounce glass of milk?
100.
100.
Approximately 100.
Number 2,
That's it.
Oh, you're talking to your wife?
You had
lost
fun.
the time.
That's right. You made that phone call to your wife and you lost your time to question. So will you kindly mark your ballots right now, if you will, panel, without change, of course, and without consultation, as you vote now for number 1, number 2, or number 3.
I just couldn't decide. I just couldn't decide.
Let me know as soon as you've marked it. All right, Tom, go ahead. For
I
whom did you
voted
vote?
for number 2. Why? This executive directress must be a person of a great deal of poise, and I thought that this lady looked like she could be the head of a big thing like that Golden Door.
Phyllis,
Well,
your choice.
I voted for number 2 also, because the costumes of number 1 and 3 put me off a little bit. I think that if you went to a place like that, they wouldn't have costumes like that. But that's, Thank you.
Gene?
I voted for number 1 because of her costume. And number 1 really looks more Scandinavian. That's why I really voted for it.
All right. And Kitty, which
I
one do you
voted for
think?
number 3 because she knew Benet Venuta's daughter, whom I think is connected with the Golden Door, and that she pinpointed exactly where it was. And so I voted for number 3.
All right, there again we have it, and we've arrived at our moment of truth where we learn how right or wrong we can be as we vote in finding out which of these ladies actually is the executive director of the Golden Door. So will the real Anne-Marie Benstrom please stand up? You did it. All right, number 1, would you tell us your real name and what you really do?
My name is Patricia Erickson. I'm a sales agent for Robert Reed Hotel Reservations and they represent hotels in Bermuda and the Caribbean.
And number 2, you got the lion's share of the votes. What is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Annalisa Maus, and I'm a fashion coordinator for Burlington Industries.
And we thank you, ladies, and you did very well. Same as in the first round tonight. You had 3 incorrect that you forced them into, meaning, of course, 3 times $250, $750. You won't have any difficulty with that, I'm sure, apportioning it out amongst you, and enjoy it. May it bring you great happiness. And this, of course, comes to you from Salem Cigarettes, and a carton of Salem's will be waiting for you on the way out. Goodbye, and God bless you. Now it's time for you to take a refresher course in springtime freshness. Only takes a minute. And now may I present our 3rd team of challengers.
Listen to this. That was the howl of a timber wolf. And that was the howl of one of these 3 men. What is your name, please?
My name is Douglas Pimlott.
My name is Douglas Pimlott.
My name is Douglas Pimlott.
And you follow along once again, panel, with your copies of this affidavit. I, Douglas Pimlott, am a professor of zoology. My specialty is the wildlife of North America. I became especially fascinated with the wolf. Working with an anesthetic dart gun, I capture wolves, mark them, and release them. I have also traveled for 9 days with a fully grown wolf, hoping he would lead me to a pack. I have learned how to howl and can now communicate with a wolf pack over a mile away. Signed, Douglas Pimlott. And so, panel, these 3 gentlemen, you heard them say, as did I, each one of them, that he and only he is Douglas Pimlott, wolf expert. We'll start with Phyllis Newman. Phyllis?
Thank you, Bud. Number 3, where are you a professor? At what university?
University of Toronto.
Toronto. Number 2, could you tell me a definition of zoology?
Zoology is the study of animals.
Thank you. Number 1, what other kinds of wildlife are you connected with?
All types of wildlife.
Well, for example, name 2 other species.
Deer, cat family.
Cat family. Number 3, are we allowed to ask them to make sounds?
No.
No, that's what I said. I don't want you to make any sounds. Number 2, what other kinds of wolves are there? I mean, are there very...
You ought to know.
Say, that's a good one. That's pretty shocking.
There are the timber wolves of the northeast. There are the red wolves of southwest and the southeast.
Oh, where's... Oh.
Gene.
Number 1, when you communicate with these wolves, what do you say?
Well, I'm merely trying to locate them, actually.
So there's no language, actually. It's just...
No, not actually.
Number 2, in your study of zoology, do you believe that ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny?
I probably would if I understood it.
Number 3, do you have a clue as to what that means?
Yes, I believe it's true.
You think it is true. Number 3, what is the purpose of marking the wolves?
To determine what their ranges are.
Number 1, where do you mark them?
Number 1, it says here that you traveled with a fully grown wolf for 9 days. How was he as a traveling companion?
He was very well, very fine.
Very fine. Did you all sleep together, number 2?
No, he wandered during the day and the night.
Number 3, how did you keep him by your side all this time?
It wasn't necessary. He was allowed freedom.
And he liked you?
Yes,
And you liked him?
yes.
Number 1, what is this affinity that causes you to want to be with the wolves?
Well, I think there's been a great deal of injustice to them, and I want to learn the truth about them.
Number 2, is it true that they hunt in packs and eat you?
No, just
They do not
Tom
eat
Poston.
people.
Tom?
Thank you. They hunt in packs. Number 3, what I'm puzzled about with the... why are packs so difficult to find? I mean, you wanted to find a pack. You hoped that he would lead you to a pack. What's so hard to find about a pack?
Wolves are very wary animals.
But would they be less wary because you were with him?
Well, this is the supposition.
Because you say you can get within a mile of a wolf pack now anyway, right?
Right.
And you thought that he might get you closer?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 1, can wolves be domesticated?
Definitely.
That's all the time we have. So, howl a little bit at your ballots and mark them, if you will, please, panel, with the information you have gleaned thus far. And in your voting, of course, do it without consultation. And vote for number 1, number 2, or number 3. All marked?
Yep.
All right. Tom, for whom did you mark your ballot this time?
I voted for number 3 because he looks like a professor.
And Phyllis,
Okay.
what is your choice?
Going along with my perfect record of 0, I voted for number 2. I don't know.
Gene?
I voted for number 3 because he looks more outdoorsy than the others.
And Kitty?
Well, I voted for number 1. I didn't know what that phrase of yours meant either about the anthropological, topological, whatever it was. But number 3 said he did know. You might have made that up.
No?
No,
Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, anyway, I voted for number 1. He looks like a fellow who could track down a wolf single-handed.
So there we have it. With a well-split and divided up vote, let's find out who's right and who's wrong, however the reasons went. And if you're playing along at home, let's see how right or wrong you may be if you're guessing along with us, as we learn which of these 3 gentlemen actually is the expert on wolves. The will the real, Dr. Douglas Pimlott. Please stand up. Would you like him to?
Yes, I'd love to hear him.
All right. Would you howl for the panel?
That's
Oh, very
What's that coming down the aisle? Number 1. Number 1, what is your real name, sir, and what do you really do?
My name is Captain Thomas Convery. I'm a recruiting officer in the United States Air Force.
Thank you. And number 2, what is your real name, sir, and what do you do?
My name is Frank Kane. I'm a writer of mystery novels.
Just to set the record straight in case you didn't register at the time, Dr. Pimlott is on the faculty of the University of Toronto. And I gather you do this work in connection with something with your work in the faculty there? University?
Yes, I worked on wolves for the Ontario Department of Lands and Forests, their research branch, before I joined the University of Toronto. And I'm continuing certain aspects of this work now that I am a professor.
Well, and you've... I
number 1
haven't got
answered...
time. I'm sorry. I wish I had, but
Later.
I've got to check on the other 2 now. Checking the score down the line, of course, we find there were 2 incorrect votes at $250 each, and that's $500, gentlemen. And if you had fun, that even makes it worth even more. That is from, of course, our sponsors, Salem Cigarettes, and a carton of Salem's for each of you. And our thanks go with you as you leave. Good night. God bless you. We'll be back in a minute. I would like to say before we leave you that the only non-communist words heard by over 80 million people trapped behind the Iron Curtain come from Radio Free Europe. So please send your truth dollars to Radio Free Europe Fund, Box 1963, Mount Vernon, New York. And that's all we have time for. Good night, panel.
Good night, Bud.
And don't forget to join us the same time next week, and I'll see you tomorrow on our daytime show. And, of course, don't let me forget to remind you once again in the meantime to tell the truth. Good night.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production. To Tell the Truth has been brought to you by Salem, the cigarette that refreshes your taste. This is Johnny Olson speaking. For To Tell the Truth, this program was pre-recorded.